Prime Minister Modi has made a statement at the restricted plenary session of the 16th Brics Summit. He has said, and I quote, "We all have to cooperate strongly and unanimously to deal with terrorism and terror financing. There is no place for double standards on such a serious issue. We should take active steps to prevent radicalization among the youth of our countries. We have to work together on the pending issue of comprehensive convention on international terrorism in the United Nations. We support dialogue and diplomacy, not war. And just as we together defeated a challenge like COVID, we are fully capable of creating new opportunities for a safe, strong and prosperous future for the next generation. We all have to cooperate strongly and unanimously to deal with terrorism and terror financing. There is no place for double standards on such a serious issue," is the pitch coming in from Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Mr. Trigunyat, how do you see this reaction coming in from Prime Minister Modi when it comes to this entire pitch where he leverages India's reaction to the COVID pandemic, where the Vaccine Maitri program became a kind of a beacon for the entire globe that was suffering from the COVID pandemic, leveraging that to give a message to tackle terrorism, calling it a global movement, also making the pitch amid the Israel and the Hamas and Hezbollah war, as well as the Russia-Ukraine conflict, making the pitch that war, this is not the era of war. This is something he has said time and time again.
Well, Prime Minister Modi has been saying about these wars that dialogue and diplomacy and respect for the UN Charter are the ones that are going to take us forward, that they are the only way out. At the same time, in the pandemic, you know that India has followed its policy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, reaching out to the poorest and the disadvantaged countries and stood for them. Whether it was waiving of the IPRs for the vaccines are concerned, the provision of the vaccines concerned, India did that. And that is something that all these countries have greatly appreciated. On the other hand, as far as terrorism is concerned, that Prime Minister Modi was again one of the first leaders at the United Nations to have called out that unfortunately the world has not even reached or even defined what terrorism is. I mean, that is this. How do you fight with that? And India has supported and advanced this comprehensive convention of international terrorism for a long time and is trying to bear more traction for it. Secondly, this particular statement also refers indirectly to the countries like China, which have been putting technical holds in the UN committees 1313 and 1267 when designating some of the Pakistani terrorists are concerned. So that's what is double standard all about. Likewise, the double standards of the Western countries like the United States and Canada. So this is a very loaded statement, very clear, and clearly says that until and unless we do have a global solidarity and resolve, we will not be able to counter these global problems and challenges. And India stands to fight these at every which way it can do that. So that's something I believe has been very clear, and those are India's policies. And I think in that Russians and everybody else are with us, and hopefully the Chinese will also go along.
Absolutely. I'm also joined by my colleague Siddhant, who's been tracking all the developments at the Brics Summit. Siddhant, so a global fight against terror, not the era of war, and a sense of unity, just like the world fought COVID, the fight that was led by India. Very interesting statement coming in from Prime Minister Narendra Modi ahead of his bilateral with Xi Jinping.
Well, Ayushman, India is the founding members. Perhaps India has a say in who is going to be the member of the BRICS in future. And remember, Pakistan has applied for the BRICS membership. Now, Prime Minister's message on terrorism perhaps could be seen as a message to Pakistan and the other BRICS members that the countries supporting terrorism or perhaps perpetrators of terrorism should not be given chance in the BRICS grouping. And this is the reason Prime Minister said that the आतंकवाद और terror financing से निपटने के लिए हम सभी को एक मत करना चाहिए. And Prime Minister also exposed those who have dual standards when it comes to terrorism and radicalization. Also, Prime Minister reiterated that this is not the era of war, and dialogue and diplomacy are the way to find peace as far as the conflict is concerned. Prime Minister also spoke about the challenges that the world is facing post the COVID times, and in fact, the Prime Minister again spoke about the reforms in the United Nations Security Council and the other international organizations. Prime Minister also said that efforts need to be given in the right direction, but it should not be seen that we are trying to replace these institutions. It should be that we are trying to reform these institutions. A big message coming from the Prime Minister, and Prime Minister has made India's position very clear that India believes in the reforms, not the replacement of these institutions. Again, Prime Minister, as India projects itself as the voice of the global South, Prime Minister spoke about the aspirations of the countries from the global South and how these countries are being impacted because of the war. And in fact, Prime Minister did touch upon the misuse of technology, cyber security, deepfake, disinformation. Prime Minister says that these are some fresh challenges which needs to be addressed at BRICS Forum. Back to you.
Right. Thank you, Siddhant, for joining us with that piece of breaking news.